Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome in. We are so thrilled to see you all here today to learn about the best SysAdmin tool you're not using and to kick off the SysAdmin Day celebrations a little early. I'm Katie Frank, and our speaker today is Kayla Higgins, one of our brilliant systems engineers. But before we get started, print servers are the worst, right? Well, we're on a mission to eliminate them and help you deliver centralized direct IP printing to your end users and empower you to manage, track, and deploy printers from a single console. So let's go ahead and dig into our agenda and our first question for Kayla. We'll cover how to reduce cost, get into a poll question, learn about how to become more proactive in your role, how to best support end users, hit you with another poll question, learn about how PrinterLogic bolsters your organization's security, and learn about how PrinterLogic frees up your time. And we even have some suggestions on what you can do with that free time, followed by our third and final poll question. So, my first question for Kayla is, how do I reduce costs? I know the primary way to reduce costs is by eliminating your print servers, but can you dig in a little deeper about how we can reduce costs with PrintLogic?
Of course, we can essentially reduce costs by four simple steps. First, we're going to migrate your current print infrastructure and move it to the cloud. Now, we allow you to do this by various different methods, but we also have a couple of tools that will allow you to essentially duplicate the queues from your current print infrastructure and move it into the cloud pretty seamlessly. Once that information is in the cloud, that's where all the magic will happen because now you're able to deploy all of those queues to your end users by security groups, IP addresses, etc. Now, the way that this works is that your end users' workstations will have a client running on them as a full system service. That client will simply just ping up via port 443 into the cloud and pull down any of the printers and permissions that they have access to. Now, the printers are being installed locally onto their machine, so the print jobs are actually being spooled and rendered on the device itself and sent directly to the printer, making it a more secure print environment. Now, when we talk about that admin console, we're essentially saying all of your different administrative capabilities within a single pane of glass. So in this management console, you're able to have very extensive role-based access. And you can also use our predefined roles or just create your own role for more of a granular security. Not only that, you're also able to SSO into this console using the IDP provider. We do support IDP providers using SAML integration. So once you integrate such as Azure or Okta into your environment, you're able to SSO into the admin console using an administrative role, or your end users can access or SSO into the end user console using SSO, which I'll show you here in just a few seconds. Now, like I said, it's all in a single pane of glass, so it also will provide printer and driver deployment, saving you a ton of time and a ton of money. Now, when we talk about the self-service portal, this is where your end users can manually install printers themselves. So they'll just simply be able to click on the client that's running on their workstation, scroll over to the printer that they're sitting next to manually install that printer locally onto their machine. Now, administrators can completely customize this console using security. And what I mean by that is, say, for example, you had a particular printer dedicated to a department. You can actually filter down users using multiple different methods, so only members of that department would see that particular printer, and that way not everyone has access to everything in your environment. But not only that, your end users can also see their print quota and also manage their badge and PIN number for pull printing, so that way they never have to call into the help desk. We also support SNMP monitoring as well. Now, SNMP alerting and monitoring essentially is the same thing, but when we talk about supporting it, we support versions 1, 2, and 3. Now, you could set up alerts based off of that SNMP monitoring on a particular printer, a group of printer, or even all of the printers in your environment. So this is completely customizable of what alerts you want to receive those or what alerts you would like to see those printers come from. Now, as far as those emails go, you can receive an alert for a low paper, a low toner. That way you can be more proactive rather than reactive, so you can get to it before your end users find out that there's no paper left in that printer. And it looks like our next slide is going to be a poll question. So I'm going to take a few minutes and let you guys pick and choose what you would like to do with this new ROI after saving you all of that money using 4 simple steps that we just talked about.
Yeah, so you've eliminated your print servers. You don't have to pay for those anymore. You don't have to pay for upkeep or anything like that. So, um, yeah, let us know in the poll what you would do with this new ROI, or if you have other ideas, pop them in the chat and feel free to discuss. It's looking like spending time and money addressing new projects is winning, which that's I would say probably the most responsible option of those. I do love the 7 people who said spoil my team with love and appreciation. Considering it's SysAdmin Day coming up on Friday, I feel like that's very fitting.
I feel like the spoil team with love and appreciation should be the highest one.
Maybe it is in their hearts.
I think the spend time on money addressing new projects takes the cake.
I think it does. All right, are we ready to move on to our next question for Kayla? Yes, spending time and money addressing new projects is indeed the winner. We love to see it. Um, so Kayla, you mentioned you know, becoming more proactive rather than reactive. What are some ways PrinterLogic enables you to do that?
Of course, yeah. So we talked about the self-service portal where your end users can manually install printers. But not only that, PrinterLogic also offers quota management. So within this management functionality, the administrators are actually able to set a threshold on their end users based off volume or price, so your end users can't print past that particular threshold. We also did talk about SNMP monitoring alerts, where you can set up SNMP monitoring your environment and receive alerts based off of that information. But we also have advanced reporting. Now, advanced reporting is where you can receive an email on basically printer volume. So you can receive these emails daily, weekly, or even yearly, as a retention policy is 2 years. Now, utilizing this reporting functionality will save you a lot of money because you're actually able to see what printers are being utilized and what are not, saving you a ton of money on what printers are not being utilized.
Yeah, so you can get rid of some of those printers, especially the really pesky ones that always have trouble. So we touched on end users a little bit here, but what is the best way for us to support end users using PrinterLogic?
Of course, yeah. So I know that we keep mentioning this, but definitely the self-service portal. And the reason why we keep mentioning it is because it's definitely the most popular feature that PrinterLogic has to offer, as it's pretty UI friendly to the end users. But it's also optional because you do have the functionality as an administrator to automatically deploy out these printers to your end users as well. Now, your end users are not seeing this communication happening, so it's basically magic on their end as they just receive the printer just automatically on their machine. Now, these methods include IP address range, host name, all the way down to the MAC address to the workstation if you choose to do so. Now, when we go further into the topic of how we want to best support our end users, of course, we want to eliminate that print server. Now, from a technical perspective, that print server is a single point of failure. So if that print server goes down, all of your printing infrastructure goes down. Not with printer logic, though. If your internet or network or even AWS were to go down, printer logic will still be able to function as it's a direct IP printing environment. We also support pull and secure release printing as well. So this is essentially where an end user can submit a print job to a particular printer and then walk up to the printer to release that print job. And we have 4 different methods that they're able to release this job at. We can release it by badge number, PIN number. We also have a mobile app for iOS or Android, and within that app, there is a scanner. So in this use case, the administrator would put a QR code on the physical printer itself. The user would be able to walk up, scan that QR code to release that job that way. And then, of course, we can release it by browser as well. Now, of course, we mentioned the mobile app and the pull release functionality within it, but also you can submit print jobs directly from that app and send it directly to the printer. And the really great thing about that is that it utilizes IPP printing. So it's driverless and really, really seamless. Now, if a direct IP printing infrastructure does not work for you, this would come in a use case where an end user cannot communicate to the printer. Don't worry about that because we actually have a functionality called off-network printing as well. And this is essentially where an end user can submit a print job into that printer's network without ever poking any holes in the firewall. So it doesn't matter whether your employees are locally or remote, we got you covered in all of the different architectures.
And then this next slide is one of my favorites, but the best way we help support end users is by reducing print-related help desk tickets by 95%. So there's no stoppage of work. You have you increase user productivity because they're not having to stop working to submit a ticket saying, I can't print or help me add this printer. They can use the self-service installation portal to add the printer themselves, and you increase printer uptime with PrinterLogic because you don't have that print server being a single point of failure. Which leads us into our second poll question, which is, what do you wish your end users knew? Our options are how to remember a password, how to install printers, how to update their computer regularly, or how to submit a ticket with more detail. Oh, okay, coming in strong with how to submit a ticket with detail.
I used to be a sysadmin, so this is definitely a huge pain point when it comes to any kind of IT responsibilities. If I could just have someone submit a ticket with very extensive detail, I feel like it would save a lot of time and a lot of money. By far, it takes the cake.
It really does. Man, I thought how to update their computer regularly, which really just means, in my mind, like turning it off and on again. But they know that already, right? Surely. But yeah, it looks like how to submit a ticket with more detail was the winner there. No surprises. No surprises at all. So my next question for Kayla is, how would PrinterLogic bolster my organization's security?
Yeah, we can do this by many different methods. I had previously mentioned the off-network printing functionality that PrinterLogic has to offer, but that kind of leads into a zero trust environment. Now, so not only can we utilize a direct IP environment, we can also implement a total zero trust environment. But if you're still worried about security, we can still implement polar secure release printing. Now, this is super, super secure because your end users will not actually able to release that print job unless they use one of the 4 different methods that we talked about before, actually at the physical printer itself. Alongside with that functionality, we actually have offline secure release printing as well. Now, this is essentially where an end user will submit a print job, go home for the day, completely turn off their workstation, and just forget about it. They come into the next morning and, oh my goodness, they have a presentation to do today. So all they would need to do is just walk up to that printer to release the print job that way.
Excellent.
But if you're still worried about security, no worries. We are ISO and SOC 2 compliant. So we definitely have you covered as far as certifications for SS.
Excellent. Yeah, we'd love to see those certifications. They just give people a good like peace of mind. It also helps those security questionnaires go a little bit faster when you're doing tech reviews. So, our final question, we are moving through this webinar. We want to give people some time back in their day. Our last question is, how does PrinterLogic free up my time and what should I do with it?
Yeah, Printer Logic will free a lot of your time and money. But when we go into how we would release your time, we all have a to-do list that's sitting on our desk, probably has been there for quite some time. And I'm sure somewhere on that to-do list is finally dealing with the Windows 2012 server end of life. Now, I cannot believe myself that this is already 11 years ago, but it is probably a good thing to finally get to that before it just completely crashes on you. And of course, going into that is some hardware refreshes that you might need to quickly update or just refresh in general. Or if you're just completely serverless, you want to go into the cloud, I'm sure digital transformation is somewhere on that list as well. So moving into the cloud has become a more modern approach, especially with printer logic. So you can finally implement that zero trust environment that you've been thinking about for quite some time now. Or maybe you're even trying to look into a cloud provider for your AD, so you can finally move from on-prem AD into the cloud, such as Azure Okta, which also PrinterLogic can support.
Yeah, I think kind of to wrap up this slide, it's that reduction, that 95% reduction in help desk tickets is going to free up a lot of your time because you're not helping people install printers or troubleshooting printers as much. You can be more proactive rather than reactive when it comes to like toner or paper refills. And yeah, talking about digital transformation, that's on everyone's list, but like this group of people are the people who are responsible for making that happen for their organization. So freeing up their time to be able to focus on that is really important. And we love to be there to help you with that initiative. So that leads us into our last poll question. What would you do with this new free time? You could develop new goals, you could improve your skills, create more team building time, or catch up on new or old projects. Oh, team building time was going. Oh, I was really hoping. Oh, there's two for team building time. Love to see it. But yeah, that catching up on new and old projects is definitely gonna be the winner there. But we love to see improving skills too, getting those certifications.
Someone
Oh,
said in the chat to clean up their server room. That can also be an
well,
option.
man, that really should have been an option.
Yeah.
But looks like catching up on new and old projects wins that poll question. So I think that totally makes sense. Yeah. So to wrap up, these are the 5 reasons you deserve printer logic. You can reduce costs. You can be more proactive rather than reactive. You can better support your end users. You can bolster your organization's security, and you can have more free time to focus on more impactful projects. But that all sounds great and good, but how do you know you're going with the right print management software? We are the number one rated print management software on G2, and these badges look great and all, but the real meat of this is the reviews from our real users. And the one I'd like to call out here is PrinterLogic makes my life easier. We hear this all the time in calls with customers, and we genuinely love hearing that. We love hearing how it improves people's lives and hearing how simple it is to configure. And another thing we hear a lot is, I just set it and forget it, which we hope you don't forget about PrinterLogic, but we love that it makes it easy for everyone. So this is just one last call out for me to say, eliminate your print servers, move away from that archaic technology, and get a customized demo, maybe with Kayla, to see how simple and secure eliminating your print servers can be with PrinterLogic. And with that, we will move into Q&A.
Awesome. So it looks like in the interim that we were doing the presentation, it looks like quite a few questions have came in. So we'll just go ahead and get started, but feel free to continue to submit them. I'll definitely just be working down the list. But the first question that I wanted to touch on is, how do we avoid print nightmare? Now, I love this question because I can just simply come back and say, we're just going to get rid of it altogether. Because print nightmare came about because print servers exist. And if we essentially avoid that print server altogether, we're avoiding print nightmare altogether as well. Let's see. Another question says, where are my print jobs going? Now, this is also a very good question because there are multiple architectures that PrinterLogic has to offer. So we have the direct IP printing environment. That is our default architecture. So the print jobs are being spooled and rendered on the device itself and then sent directly to the printer over port 9100. But we also have our off-network printing functionality as well. Now, although in this architecture, your print jobs are going through the cloud, they are never being captured, so it makes it a more secure environment. Another question that we have that came in that says, does the cloud talk to the printers? This is also a very, very good question. And your PrinterLogic Administrative Console actually does not communicate to the printers whatsoever. The only communication that you have is your end users. So the end user will have a client that will run as a full system service, and all it really does is just ping up via port 443 to your particular instance in the cloud and pulls down all of the updates and printers that they have permission to.
Whew, got a lot of
Sorry.
questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. Sorry, I'm trying to filter through all these. Let's see here. What are the requirements for running the end user portal? Now, there really is no requirements, and actually, the administrator has full access of how to customize that particular self-service portal. And what I mean by that is you can just simply in the admin console upload a floor plan and just simply drag and drop the printers onto that floor plan to your liking. That way you just have full control of how that looks. You can also add security on top of that. So you can filter down users by many, many different methods. So that way, for example, an end user can see a particular printer if they were part of a particular group and so on and so forth. Does mobile PCs maintain the connection to the printers local to them moving between sites? I'm not entirely sure the extensiveness of this question. However, I did want to talk about how the client sees the end user's information. Now, we did talk about how the client is running as a full system service. So the reason why I bring that up is because you can have, for example, an IP address range for building 1 and building 2. So if a user enters building 1 that has an IP address set up, they just automatically receive the printers that are assigned to that range because the client is actually seeing that that particular workstation is a part of that range that you have set up. Now, when it exits that particular range, the printers are uninstalled, making it more a seamless approach as far as cleaning printers up on their workstation. But once they enter building 2 or go back into building 1, those printers are reinstalled. Um, Sorry, here there's a lot of different questions coming in, so
Yeah,
just bear
here's
with me here.
here's one, Kayla. Is there
Okay.
a non-cloud version of this product? I have a very large customer that nothing is allowed in the cloud.
Yes, so PrinterLogic does offer a virtual appliance. So we still have the same feature set and everything like that, but essentially we give you an OVA file. That way you can manage the PrinterLogic yourself. Um, I would be more interested to set up a personal demo because I would like to know why your organization cannot move fully into the cloud because PrinterLogic really does have a lot to offer when it comes to security.
Speaking of security, moving to the cloud, who is our hosting environment?
Oh, yes, we are hosted in AWS. And the really nice thing about that when you go for the SaaS solution is that the administrator has full control of when they spin up the environment of which region they would like to spin it up in. And so that way your data never leaves that region, making it, of course, a more secure environment.
Excellent. Do you want me to go through and cherry pick some? Because we do have
Yeah, it's a lot.
okay.
I can't keep up.
Um, let's see. I'm not sure if this is more of a question than something you could just speak to. So, interested in the differences in clearing out group policy printers via printer logic as opposed to how a regular print server would make you handle it.
Yeah, this is actually a really, really good question. And whoever asked this, I am sure there's some background to it that you have spent a ton of time on scripting and GPOs. And I hate to say that when you move into printer logic, we will no longer be utilizing that. But it's also a really good thing because printer logic makes it a lot more simpler when it comes to deploying out printers to your end users. Now, as far as your GPOs go, I'm sure you have something set up to, for example, this security group receives this particular printer. We make it even simpler in Printer Logic in your administrative console that you can just simply add a group or a particular user to that printer, and that way the printer will just magically appear on their workstation.
That's great. What about these new HP smart printers that must be connected to the web? Does PrinterLogic support these?
I am not actually aware of these HP smart printers, but as long as they are using a V3 signed driver, we will be able to support it as we are printer agnostic. The only thing that PrinterLogic does not support is those pesky V4 drivers. And we do that because it disables port monitoring, which directly conflicts with the design of our client.
Excellent. I think that kind of answered the is there a list of compatible printers question. We do have a list of those, but what Kayla said about as long as there's a type 3 driver for that printer, you should be good to go.
Mhm.
And yes, there will be a link to go back and listen to the presentation. Can you set up follow me printing?
Oh, yes. Let me take a deeper dive in how we set this up within PrinterLogic. Now, we actually don't call it follow me printing, although I think it's just a naming scheme, but I know it's essentially the same thing. But as far as PrinterLogic goes, we offer pull printing and secure release printing. Now, they're essentially the same exact things, but the only difference between the two is pull release printing is when an end user submits a print job, and that print job is held at a virtual queue until they choose to release that queue at any pull enabled printer. And then secure release printing is essentially the same exact thing. They would just have to choose the printer they would like to release that print job from. Now, as far as the release mechanisms, I'm just going to go ahead and go over them just a little bit more in detail. One of them, or actually two of them, is pin number and badge swipe. Now, the way that we set this up is that we push out a control panel application to the particular printer itself. The user would be able to walk up to the printer, swipe their badge, or put in their pin number to release that print job. But also, we have a mobile app for iOS and Android that has a scanner within it. And so this use case, the administrator would put a QR code on the printer itself. The user would be able to walk up, scan that QR code to release the job that way. And of course, we can release it by browser as well. Great question.
Let's see. Is there redundancy for product that if network goes down, information such as who, what, and who, what, when, print, scanned, etc. So I guess you're just asking, is there redundancy? Should anything go down?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So worst comes to worst, say AWS goes down or your internet or network were to go down, the only thing that you would be missing in that case scenario is just a temporary, I guess, the temporary volume of how your end users report back up with the metadata of print jobs. And that goes in the reporting. But no worries, once AWS comes back up or your internet or network were to come back up, it will just sync back up as per usual.
Excellent. Oh, this is a good one. Are there browser requirements for running the end user portal? For example, do users need to use a certain browser or OS version?
I'm laughing because I almost said internet, but that has been EOL for a while now, or Internet Explorer. But yes, we are browser agnostic. You can access that portal in any modern browsers that we have today. Obviously not IE because that is down.
And we're also OS agnostic.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. We are OS agnostic, so we can support Windows, Mac, Linux, etc.
We have a question about moving between sites. I think we've covered that a little bit, but if you could talk a little bit more about maybe supporting like a multi-site organization or someone who, starts at side A, but then starts their day at side A, but maybe ends their day at side B?
Yeah, so the really nice thing about printer logic is that it's really, really customizable. So really, no matter how you would like to see your print infrastructure set up or how you have it currently set up, we can definitely support it as far as deployment goes. And what I mean by that is one of the deployments that we have is IP address range. And this is just simply a range that the administrator would set. You'll specify printers for that particular range. So anyone who enters that range will just automatically receive those printers. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this particular method is because it's very unique. Once the users exit out of that range, the printers are uninstalled from the control panel. And this is really designed this way because you can have as many ranges as you would like to be set up in your environment. And if the users are going in between them consistently, the printers will not accumulate over and over again. So it just makes it more seamless. Now, of course, that's not our only deployment method. We also have the self-service portal. So when your end users access a new environment or enter a new building, they can just simply scroll over to the printers that they're sitting next to manually install that printers. But also, the administrator has the capability of just pushing out that printer via an Active Directory group, a host name, MAC address, etc., to that particular printer or user.
Excellent. And I think this is probably going to be our last question. We've had so many great ones, and I would encourage you to book a demo with us if you haven't had your question answered. And Kayla or another one of our systems engineers can dig in a little deeper with you and make sure we fully address your question, not just like in a rapid fire Q&A session. So our last one's kind of a doozy. So buckle up, Kayla.
Oh no.
We don't use a print server. We just install via IP the printer we want on a particular PC. We have a VPN from office to office so that some PCs can print to offsite locations. It is tedious. How would moving to Printer Logic be beneficial for us?
Okay, so what I heard from that is we just want to simply get rid of that VPN altogether, right? But it either way we can support your current infrastructure how you're doing it right now, or we can just simply get rid of that VPN and go a zero trust architecture route. Now, as far as setting that up, I would love to get super, super granular and discuss this further with you in a more personalized demonstration. But we can set it up essentially where if you were going in a zero trust route, we can simply just set up what we call an internal routing service that can communicate to that printer that the end users cannot. So when they submit a print job, that print job is going through an external gateway, and you can host that or we can host that, it doesn't matter, onto that internal routing service that you've already specified and then to the printer. That way we're not poking any holes in your firewall. Great question. And like I said, I would love to speak to you more about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of these questions of like, "Ooh, Kayla would love to like dig in more on this." So I don't want to.
Yeah.
I want to throw it at her in um, this kind of environment. But yeah, if you're curious, want to learn more, there's a link in the resources section to book a demo with us, and you might have Kayla on your demo. She does really work for Printer Logic. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I would love to sit
Um,
down with you and you can ask me as many questions as you would like. I do this for a living, so I quite enjoy it.
Excellent. That is it. Thank you for joining us today. I will hand it back over to the Spiceworks team.
All right. So as we wrap things up, I want to give a special thank you to Printer Logic and our speakers, Katie and Kayla, for sharing this great presentation. Also, thank you to our attendees for joining us for today's session. Don't forget to check out the resource section for more information on today's topic. And if we didn't get to your question today, we will follow up with you afterward. We are also announcing our prize winner in the chat, so congrats to the lucky recipient. We hope to see you on an upcoming event, and until then, stay safe and keep it spicy. Have a great day, everyone.